Invisible. Okay, thank you. So, thank you so much, Hida. I just thought about it, and I realized that there's something that I felt like I had a weakness in. When sometimes you feel like you're so focused on some days, and then on some other days, you feel like you're just sailing through in your business. So it just made me think, and I actually happened to attend a sermon in church this other week where they were talking about the power of focus and how you definitely need to ensure that you constantly focus on how to maintain that. Because as human beings, we get derailed by a lot of things that happen. Life happens, so many things happen. So I just want to talk today about strategizing, focus, and hunting for your dream. So one thing that really got to me was the fact that in everything that we're doing, there's so many things that are happening around us. For example, our business is on social media. How many times do we go online and then we ensure that we're actually doing what we need to be doing? So there's this book that is called The Shallows, that talks about how, a lot of the number of text messages that people send out, the number of, communication messages that people exchange per month, per year, and it actually shows how much people are on their phones. But then the question is, are you adding value? Because most of the time, sometimes you go online and you say, okay, let me just be creating content, let me see what I can post today. And then you find that maybe 30 minutes later, you've actually been derailed by some of the things that you are seeing. So for me, this actually really made me realize the fact that there's there's a lot of people that talk about the fact that whenever you need to do something, it is good for you to have a list to say, this is what I'm going to do today, this is how I'm going to break it down, this is exactly when I'm going to take breaks. But sometimes if you don't have that to control yourself, to control how you're going to manage your time, you can find yourself having it in your mind is okay, but then you can find yourself now being derailed by a lot of things. But also, wherever there's a crisis, there's an opportunity, of course. And you find that in this case, for example, this was written, to say that by the time of like around 2009, the average American cell was sending or receiving nearly 400 texts per month, right? This was 2009, and of which for me, I think at that time, I didn't really have a phone of my own at the time. But you find that now we are in 2024, and there's been a lot of changes where we actually find that worldwide there's over 2 trillion texts that are sent on any platform, coming from one person to the other. It doesn't matter whether it's through Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever. So this made me realize the fact that it made it so real, like for example, we talk about social media, the power of social media, but sometimes are we really, using all those resources that we have? Because it made me think to say, okay, of those 2 trillion texts that people are sending out, what are they talking about? Who are they talking to? Am I also part of some of those conversations? And if I'm part of those conversations, what are we talking about? So these are some of the things that I then just looked at, things that, basically cause distractions. One thing that I realized is the fact that it's not that sometimes we can be distracted by people, but it does not necessarily mean that it's bad people. So the very best of people can also lose their focus. So sometimes you can be focused for, let's say, 3 days, and you feel like you're on the ball. I'm pushing my business, I know exactly what I'm doing, I know exactly where I'm going, but it doesn't mean that you also stop the cycle of how you've been maintaining that focus, of how you've been making sure that you stay focused. Because even the very best people can lose their focus, right? So you find that, for example, there's also where we say people who cause us to lose focus, might not have our best interests at heart. This does not mean that people are bad. So I've seen this a lot of times, sometimes where, let's say there's a presentation on Saturday, but you have family or maybe friends, some of them, they say, no, but you're always doing these presentations. Can't we do something else this Saturday? Maybe go and hang out and do something. I've tried it. I went, but my conscience, when I got there, it just wouldn't allow me to even enjoy the moment, because I felt like, okay, I think this is one weekend. Remember, there's going to be just 4 weekends in this month, and already this weekend I've already lost it. You know, I've lost the opportunity for me to actually use this to grow my business, and I start thinking of all those things. So sometimes it's really important to just allow yourself to say, this is my plan of the day, and if you want, to have some time for other things, schedule it in also around, because this is what we always say, even when we share the business with new people, we say the business gives you balance. You can do it around your commitments, which is true. So it's just a matter of time management for us to see exactly when are you doing your business, when are you going to be doing certain things with friends and family, if it means to say that okay, they need you to attend a function or things like that. So everything that we do, as we always say, that the choices that we make on a daily basis, they give you a compound effect at the end of the day. So if the choices are good, obviously you're going to have a good result out of it. But even if the choice is to do nothing, there's still a result that comes from that. So there's always consequences of losing focus, right? So the consequences of losing focus are always serious, because most of the time this means that, for example, if your goal was to get out of debt and then you lost focus along the way, obviously that debt is not going to be paid, and the consequence of that is the fact that it actually might gain interest as well, compared to the plan that you already had. And instead of looking, for example, maybe for, if it was a debt of 5,000, maybe in that case now it's already more than, a little bit more than 5,000. So the time factor also comes with consequences that are aligned to it, based on how you decided to manage your time. So I just wanted to say that, most of the time we always talk about the fact that, you know, um, the God who gave you the business will give you the clients. So I always say there are a few things in life that we need to, well, according to me, that I believe that we need to focus areas, things like focusing on your faith, because the faith that a human being has in whatever it is that you believe in is what actually keeps you on the straight and narrow path of where you're going, of what you want to do, because your faith will also allow you to focus on the core work and the business of your life. So when I'm saying core work and business, I'm not just talking about the business alone, but I'm talking about you asking yourself to say, what is it to remind, or rather reminding yourself to say, what matters most to me, right? So when you're focusing on the core work and the business that you have, this is where you actually then say, you know what, I need to make sure that this week I have a product launch somewhere, because I need to buy my daughter shoes. But if you're not thinking about it, in that case, this is where you're like, okay, this is fine. I'm going to do it later, or I'm going to, procrastination comes into play, right? So be of single aim. Being of single aim is just I wrote some verses that are actually next to it if you want to go through it later. But be of single aim, it means that when you're deciding to say, I want to focus on certain things, allow yourself to have at least one main goal that you're going for. Because when we all, aim for multiple things, sometimes we tend to lose it all, right? So this is where we're saying that focus on at least one goal. Sometimes, of course, yes, there's so many things that you want to do, but you need to just write everything down and ask yourself, what is my main goal when it comes to all of this? And then also focus on finishing what you start. It's very easy, for us sometimes to say, okay, it's been a long road, and I don't know if I'm going to achieve this goal. I don't know, and along the way, you start feeling like, you know what, let me just see where I end up. But unfortunately, most of the time, when we leave that to say, let me just see where I end up, it actually means that even the effort that you're going to put in is not the effort that is equivalent to what you're trying to achieve. You're just sailing through just for the sake of it, right? So we always need to make sure that we focus on finishing what you start, and this is something that is really, it's not something that is easy, because most of the time, sometimes you can plan certain things and then you feel like, you know what, when I planned it, it was a great idea, but today I don't feel like it. I thought I would want to, but today I don't feel like it. So it's something that would actually need you to have a certain level of discipline over yourself, which is something that is not easy, when you have to have a conversation with yourself to say, okay, is this good? Is this good enough? Am I doing my best? right? So and we also need to focus our thoughts. Shallow readers produce shallow minds. So this is personal development. We constantly have to allow ourselves to develop, and get to know more information. Read whatever it is that we can read. I remember there was a time we used to share, to say, this is what the book that I'm reading, this is what I'm doing, and all those things. It's something that actually develops one's mind, right? So then we're talking about focusing on our finances. This is something that is really, really crucial as well, because, for example, we're in a business whereby there's a possibility of you receiving money every day, but without the control of those finances, it is very easy to also use the money every day. And then at the end of the month, you don't quite see where the money went to, and I actually can say that, I did have a time where I used to say, if I sell one product, I use the money, sell the product, I use the money. Come the point where I need to restock, or maybe I need to do just at least 1 cc for myself, I'm like, but I don't have the money to buy that. But the question is, what happened to the sales that you made? And then I'll be like, you know what, but I needed to do certain things in the house. I needed to, which is fine. But at the end of the day, how did you manage your finances? When you made that sale, why didn't you just use the profit so that you can keep the money to be able to restock? So this is where where I would even give myself excuses to say, but I didn't sell that much. Then this would be the push, because the difference is, for example, let's say you sell a marker and then you say, okay, let me put 400 back, let me use 200. 200 is obviously not going to be enough for the things that you want to do. So that could actually be a push for you to be able to actually say, let me try and find ways to retail more because I need more of it. So it actually made me realize that it depends with how you decide or choose to look at it. So we also need to focus on our goals. And this is something that even God expects of us. The Bible talks about how he expects us to move from grace to grace. That means that he also wants to see growth. So obviously, if he gave you the business idea, he expects you to see you grow from one level to another as well. Yes, along the way, there's challenges like anything else in life. There's obviously going to be a few challenges that you have to pass through, and then, you get to move past. But the main thing is still the fact that he also expects you to move from one level to another for you to grow and be able to be at another level, which also has its own challenges, and you move to the next. So by us actually being able to do that, it means we need to focus on our goals. And this is something that, happens a lot. For example, sometimes in January, you'll be thinking, okay, I have a lot of time, but then only to realize, to say, okay, by the way, now there's 4 months left in the year. So I love to say that, sometimes it's so easy to dwell on what we have failed to achieve. But what about maybe if we entertain the thought to say, what is it that I can do with the time that I have left? So above all of this, also focusing on our families, there's incredible power in focus. When it comes to what you focus on, the more you want it, the more you associate it with what's very important to you. And this is where you're focusing on our families. You'll find that certain things start falling in line without you knowing exactly, that how you were going to do it from the beginning. I always talk about the fact that, for example, when God told Abraham to say that you need to leave, the area where he was, he didn't tell him exactly where he was going. He just told him to stand up, take your things, take your family, and start walking, right? So sometimes it's not really about knowing everything that you're going to be able to do or everything that is going to be required of you, but it's about making a decision to say, this is what I want, and I'm going to start today with what I know today. What I need to know tomorrow, even if I learn during the course of today, it's fine. But then I'm going to implement what I know today, and then we're going to move until I get to that goal. So when I'm talking about the fact that there's also incredible power in focus, I'm talking about the fact that, for example, if you use a magnifying glass, if you manage to focus it for an extended period of time on any material, you find that it actually produces a laser power that actually breaks the matter that you're looking into. But this is when you have an extreme level of focus where you're looking at exactly one point for a period of time. So for me, like I want to say that, this is the time where we also need to revisit our goals, revisit those, vision boards to see what is it that I've done, where am I, what is it that I've achieved so far, and what is it that I can do. So obviously the mindset also has to come into play, because remember, everything starts in the mind, and unfortunately, even life attacks us through the mind as well. So when good things happen, your mind is the first to recognize it. At the same time, our mind is also quick to focus on certain things that happen around us that may not be so positive, that will also be having an impact. So it's so easy, for example, to go on social media. You see something that is depressing. After you see something that is depressing, it ruins your entire day, because you're no longer, in that mindset where you can be productive. So it is the idea here is to guard what you allow into your mind, guard what you allow yourself to focus on, and allow yourself to have an ego mentality. I always love to say that, eagles are one of the animals that I find that do not mind to be alone. They do not mind, to go through certain things. For example, when an eagle wants to make sure that it renews its beak, it goes through a lot of pain, for a certain period of time, trying to remove the old one to grow a new one, right? And it needs a new one because that is what it uses to hunt as well. So we need to allow ourselves to go through the learning curve, allow ourselves to go through whatever it is that is there, with the idea and with the mindset that allows you to know that there's a bigger picture to each and every single thing that I'm doing. Yes, today I might have gone out and I didn't sell anything, but I got numbers, and there's a bigger picture to this. I'm not looking at just having 5 people that are going to buy for me every day, but I'm adding more to what I have that mindset to say that I'm not just building, a business for just for today, but this is going to be a franchise. Years, even after this, people are going to be talking about, my family is going to benefit from this. After I'm gone, my family is going to actually say, this business is what she left us, and look at what it is doing for us. So here also, I'm also put a lion because it just made me realize the fact that, when you also study the characteristics of a lion, for example, it's not the biggest, it's not the fastest, it's not, it has there's so many things, the characteristics that don't match why it would be the king of the jungle, but it is mindset. It is mindset why an elephant, as big as it is, when it sees a lion, it decides to run, right? It's the mindset of what it has, what has been, the how the lion has portrayed itself. So this also applies to all of us. When you walk into a room and you say, I want to share about the business today, share it with pride, without thinking about the defeats that you face tomorrow, the previous day, or certain disappointments. Sometimes it's not so easy to pick yourself up. Let's say at the end of the month, everyone starts the month, saying, what, I want to achieve 20, 30 cc's. But sometimes it's not a reality that actually then happens. And then you find that you push, and then you've got a long list of prospects, all saying, we're going to start month end, right? Month end is not a decisive, to say it's not a distinct date. Come the dates, then they're like, the money is not enough, or something came up, or even you invite someone to say, come for the presentation, and then they come, or actually they say, what, I'm going to be there this Saturday, I'm going to be there. On the day, I don't have transport money, and something just happened, or what, yesterday when we spoke, you didn't respond in time, so I now have other plans. And then you ask yourself to say, okay, so am I supposed to pitch up all by myself? The idea is to know that in the presence of people, or in your own isolation, you are still the king of the jungle. You are still the king of your business. You are still the queen of your business. You are still that role player. You are still the number one player of what it is that you need to do and what you need to achieve. So I hope that I think my slides were too long, my apologies, but I hope that this helped someone today.
Thank you so much, my leader. That was very powerful. We learned a lot. I'm seeing the fires in the chat. Let's just maybe read a few of the comments. See. I think we have quite a few people who commented on, finishing what you started. That was a very powerful message. And I loved revisit your goals and focus on the bigger picture. Sometimes we get so caught up with the now. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think maybe you can also share with us the book. Maybe you can just share it in the 5 a.m. session group if you are there, for those that would then like to maybe go and read the book. I think it was Shallow something. I can't remember the full name, but maybe you can share that with us so that we can also, go and read, because like you said, it's very good to go and develop. You said shallow minds produce shallow results, or shallow mind. Please repeat that phrase, my leader.
Sorry. I'm not on mute. I was just checking if I'm on mute. So the book is called The Shallows.
Yes.
And then the I'm looking for, but I'm going to send the screenshot as well.
Okay. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And thank you so much for sharing with us today. Thank you so much, my leaders, for those that woke up early to join the 5 a.m. session. I see a message. Can we join the 5 a.m. session group?